Hey guys, in today's video we'll be going over how to make a graph in Excel for a biology lab. To start off, let's look at an example of an experiment that could be done and use those data points to develop our own graph. In our experiment, a student investigates whether ants dig more tunnels in the light or in the dark. 2 ant colonies were set up, one being exposed to normal room light while the other was covered with black construction paper so that they did not receive any light. She continues this experiment for 3 weeks, measuring the length of each tunnel in millimeters. This is an Excel sheet that I have opened up, and it already has the data that the student collected. Now, there's a lot of information given in our table, and it seems that there are multiple variables at play. Remember that in every experiment, we need an independent variable and a dependent variable. So let's try to figure out what it is in this experiment. First, our independent variable can actually be seen in 2 ways, as in the absence or presence of light. This means that we'll be graphing 2 separate relationships between the lengths of tunnels and whether it is light or dark, but we'll be showing it in the same graph. Our dependent variable is the length of the tunnels, since that's what's changing depending on the change in light. If we look at it, there's no way for us to graph 2 separate independent variables into just the x-axis. However, as we will see in a moment, we'll be using legends and keys to help us distinguish between those 2 variables. We note that the dependent variable, or the length of the tunnels, will still be on the y-axis, and that since we need to show the change in days on our graph, then the number of days will be what's graphed on the x-axis. Now let's start graphing. So, we'll be highlighting our data, starting off by pressing on one of the cells, pressing the Shift button, and then highlighting the entire data set. Next, we'll go over to Insert and go to Recommended Charts. We're going to use this line graph since it has both our light and dark variables shown in the single graph. And now we have our graph. We need to come up with a chart title. So we'll double click, highlight, and delete this chart title and say length of tunnels constructed by ants in different light conditions. Note how this chart title is very descriptive and allows us to easily understand what this graph is trying to convey. Next, let's add our axis titles. We're going to go to Design and then Add Chart Element. We'll go to Axis Titles and start off with our horizontal axis, or our x-axis. We said that our x-axis is going to be our days, so we'll write the number of days. And we can even see that in the numbers that they provided us, 1 through 21, which shows the transition in 3 weeks. Next, we're going to add another axis title, this time our vertical or y-axis, which we said is going to be the length of our tunnels, measured in millimeters. You might have noticed how our graph already has these 2 separate lines, therefore our light and dark variables. These are independent variables that we decided before. Our graph automatically takes these independent variables into account and assigns them a separate color to be distinguished on our graph. The graph's legend or key at the bottom shows us which color represents which variable, with orange being represented by dark and blue representing our light. We can customize the style of our graph as well. Let's say I want to actually see the individual data points plotted on our graph instead of just straight lines. What I can do is press the paintbrush, and then from here a list of different styles for our graph will be shown. I'm going to scroll all the way down and then press on this style, so that we can see the individual data points of our graph for both the light and dark conditions. I hope this video helped you on how to make a graph on Excel for a biology lab.